Speedrunning has become a staple in the gaming community. There are some impressive runners out there. It's amazing to watch and see who holds records in what game. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a little speedrun myself. How fast can I remake the album artwork? So much fun. Welcome to Covers Done Quick. Here are the rules. I have all reference images I could find in the cover online ready to go. I even found the exact background on this free wallpaper site. Once I drop them into Photoshop, the timer starts. No cuts, nothing is sped up. Last thing I'll say before I start the run, shout out to Fano for this amazing piece. Watch the genius video they released on him in the artwork details. I'll link it down in the description. Now let's get to it. Alright, time to begin. Alright, so the first thing I gotta do is make cutouts of all these. This is gonna be the worst part, I already know it. I guess I'm gonna have to use the polygonal lasso tool. Or not the polygonal, the free-forming one. Just for speed. And typically when I do cutouts, I'll either use the polygonal lasso tool or a masking tool if I'm trying to be really non-destructive. But it's basically no rules for this. I'm gonna just do whatever I can to make it look somewhat passable as cutouts because they're gonna be 2 pixels tall anyway, so that's not really too big of a concern. I just gotta do this as quick as possible. I'm honestly predicting that the cutout phase will take the most time, although I've got a pretty good pace here. This lawnmower picture. I guess I can give a shout out to Genius and BLB for providing the pictures that were on this cover art. I was searching for about 10 minutes before I finally just sat down and watched the video that they had made. And then I just straight up just ripped them off. Saved them myself in Photoshop for this. I don't think these are all the reference pictures that were provided in the final cover, but I have like 7 here that'll suffice. And for the sake of speed again, I'm not going to put too much variety when I'm placing these down. I don't want to be so precise. It doesn't even matter that I'm cutting out parts of his jacket or pants or shoes. You'll hardly even notice it because it's so small. Change these layers. Just gotta put them together for some sort of organizational sake. When finding the exact background was hilarious. This happens all the time, especially if you watch my Migos cover art remake. It's one of my first remakes I ever did. I found almost all of the exact images that were used on Google Images. I don't know the legality of these sort of copyright details, but I imagine that they pay for the rights for commercial use. I mean, they'd have to, unless the original photographer just never sees it, which I find somewhat unbelievable. Okay, when I'm changing that, I know that Fano used Adobe Illustrator and just did a little image trace for this reference picture, but I don't have time to do that, so I'm just gonna lay down the pieces as well as I can over him. I know the general sort of layout here. I'm hoping this is the right size. This should be small enough. Looks a little big, but I won't know till I place more. So these are the ones I'm gonna work with. About 5 out of the 7. And I know that all of the figures have black jackets in the final cover, and I might have screwed myself by going too far at this point to sort of correct them, so I'm just gonna see later on the best sort of solution I can do pretty fast to get them a bit darker. It's kind of hard to predict whether these shapes are actually making the outline of his face, but again, for speed purposes, I just gotta do what I can here. From the progress I have so far, I'm thinking around 30 minutes. This is how long it'll take. About as long as a lunch break. So let's see. I also gotta say, even though, we can do these pretty fast, I already know this is gonna turn out really, really dirty. Not good editing practices, honestly. But this is a speed run, so I don't really care about that. I'm just focusing on my pace here for each element. Also, it's a lot harder, if you don't already know, to conceptualize all of this. Anyone can recreate these sort of covers, but it does take a lot of special ability and talent to conceptualize and compose these sort of artworks. I just want to give credit where it's due, I'm not trying to take anything away from any of these artists. They deserve all the respect in the world and shout outs. But it is just a fun little challenge for myself, and this is a good way for me to put out longer sort of videos instead of these more fast, sped up ones. It's just harder for YouTube because I know people like fast content, quick sort of material, and my channel is not necessarily a tutorial channel. Even though I do put that in my videos, I've been trying to give a bit more commentary that's more helpful, because I know people are wanting longer form tutorials, but I've said this in the past, that I'll probably have to wait for a live stream. I could have live streamed this, but I figured as a start of a series, it might be better formatted for a video. In the future, I may live stream and then just edit down this sort of content that I'm creating pretty faster. I feel like I'm on a good pace here. I've got like a fourth of the way done with the figure placements. Now that I got the sizing somewhat correctly, I'm just gonna have to group these together well enough. Whoops, didn't mean to move that layer. Here again, there's like no variety I'm putting into these. If you zoom in on the official cover, you can see there is an extensive amount of attention and detail to each sort of figure, drop shadows, everything added. It looks amazing. I can already tell when I zoom in on this, it's gonna look pretty trash. I've got a lot of pixels here, a lot of jagged edges that should not be cut out. But that's okay. It's part of the game. It's just an army of thuggers. I'm afraid of these being a little too uniform. I gotta place a bit more in the hair areas, especially to fill up the space, make it look more dense. But I also don't want to overlay them too much where it just gets rid of the individual figures themselves, because that's part of the beauty of this cover. You know, you see one thing and then you zoom in and it's like, oh, you know, all these little pieces part of a whole. It's an amazing concept, but it does take forever. Here we go. A little grouping technique, speed up things a little bit. I'm almost at 10 minutes, holy shit. I might be going a bit slower than I thought initially. But again, it's just grouping these. I mean, it takes forever. I'm pretty sure Fano says in the Genius video that I have linked in the description, I think they had over like 20 figures that he worked with and over like 200 individual pieces that he had laid down in the composition. Obviously, I'm not going to count. I'm going to try to get as many as I can to just replicate the final product, you know, the final cover. Would have been a lot easier for myself making that outline rather than using just this, you know, photo of him black and white. That's okay. More on the earring. It's annoying to see some of them way too close, overlaid over the other, like in the back, but detail is not my friend in this series. It's just not worth taking the time. It'd probably take me over an hour. I know it'd take me over an hour if I really just stopped and paid total attention. Okay. I know if I did this without a reference image, it would look so wonky. I'm sure it's like gonna end up a bit. I mean, I hope it looks like his face. We're just gonna see. I mean, that's the goal, but it's hard. It's like doing line work with 200 individual pieces. After the lips, this outer face building should be a bit faster. We're not really working with details now. That looks good. Let's see. I'm going to turn off the background here. Okay, that works. That's looking good. It's close enough. I can tell it's Young Thug. Well, if I didn't see the original cover, I probably wouldn't be able to, but everyone knows it by now. Especially with that green background. trying to think what I want to do next. There's a lot of pieces on the final cover that don't really fill in the jacket, so I don't want to get carried away with these bottom parts. Little bit of size difference like in the official cover. Give it a bit of variety. Let the audience know that it's actually Thug in these pictures. A little bit easier to see. Lining up his jewelry here. I'm just gonna use all the same figure. I know I'm gonna have to put like a little halo effect around him to make it look a bit shinier. So that doesn't even matter. I can get away with this. It's probably the easiest sort of placement. Make a bit of his neck area. The worst part about showing progress work is it always looks terrible until the final product. But it's part of it. We're here to learn. Somewhat. Like I said, I think I'm about 17 minutes in. I'm still confident around 30-minute time. We'll see. The placement is taking a bit longer than I thought it would, but I did know that it'd be the longest part of this whole process. Delete those reference images. Smaller details. Okay. Alright, I think I've got all the placements laid down. Go back and hide the reference image. Looks pretty good. Okay, that'll work. That'll definitely work. I'm going to select everything but the background, move that a bit to the center, make it a bit smaller, all the pieces. Now I got to worry about how I'm going to turn it darker instead of his light jacket. Yeah, I'm going to group these so I can control them all. Let's try levels, a little level adjustment. It's not working at all. That's not working. That's not working. Okay, levels is not working. Let's try, I'm gonna use the brush tool. It's all masked. Change that dark, not light. This might not work, but I'm gonna change the blend mode and see if it'll come out. That obviously looks terrible. Okay, that is not working. Why is it blue? Okay. That's better, but won't work. Maybe if I got rid of the saturation. black and white. But I'm gonna need his skin tone to show, so it can't be black and white. Okay, these aren't working. Damn it. Alright, I figured in my head I had all my game plan. Small blunder. Let's try... Let's merge these all together. Okay, inverting looks terrible. It's that blue looks so bad. There's not really any of that in the final cover. Okay. I need that group back, so I'm gonna undo. Brush tool again. It's not gonna work. Not gonna work. Let's try to use the select tool and just select. Okay, so I'm gonna select the head, select inverse so it's on his jacket, and then invert that. Looks a bit better. Okay, this is probably what I'm gonna have to use. There are levels. That looks good. A little bit too dark, I think. Yeah, bad selection. His face looks fucked up now. But let's retry. Turn down the tolerance. So since it's the same layers, they're all gonna get this treatment, all the little figures here. So I've got this face skin tone selected. I'm gonna inverse, so now the jacket and the white areas are selected. Okay, that looks better. That looks a lot better. All right, so we've got his face showing. Darkened outfit. There are levels. All right, that's gonna have to be it. That's the solution. That looks pretty good. Oh shit. Change the background details. It's a bit lighter in the final cover. That's so funny how I found the exact cover. I spent maybe 10 minutes looking for a sort of top-down field, you know, drone shot image to replicate it, but then I scrolled about halfway down Google images, and when I found it, I wasn't surprised, honestly. I've seen so many reference images just floating around. Finding textures is the same way. I'll just go on Google and type in scratch texture and then black background pretty much. Throw a screen blend mode effect on it. Works really well. Need that jewelry detail. That's just the original figure, so that was easy to make. The earring as well. I don't need to focus too much on how many figures I'm not selecting. Okay. Bit of attention to the background. Seems a bit squished in the final. I need those lines on the left side, I know that. Probably taking too much time with this, to be honest. Okay, lawnmower. Transform. I don't have to do any editing to this picture, so that's easy, but he's got to be a bit bigger. Right around here where the text will go. I've got a lawnmower reference image. In that Genius video, Fano did say how he found some old woman pushing a mower with a top-down view. I tried to look for that, but I found this old man pushing a mower, so that'll work. all I've got to do is change it to yellow, which is a simple changing the color value. That's like 2 clicks. Okay. I'm gonna put this near the top. Terrible cutout, but it's so small that it'll do. Transform. Alright, it looks a little sketchy. A bit scuffed. I'm just gonna cut out this detail. It's way too dark. It's the perspective is a bit off, but in the final cover image it is as well. First I'm gonna make this yellow, and then let's fix the coloring a bit, darken those tones. Alright, pretty good. Let's just change a couple of those corners, make it look a bit proper. I'm just using a freeform tool to use just one corner of the image instead of editing or rescaling all 4 sides. Okay. Text time. I already know the text I want to use. It's close enough to the final cover version. I actually don't know what the final cover's font is. I'm sure you could find it. It looks like a script font that's probably available online. But I have a similar one that looks a bit painterly, so that'll give that dirt effect. Looks like he's really mowing the lawn in this image. Like, that already looks good. It's a bit thin, but I'll add a stroke to the outer side of it in a few minutes here. Okay, it's looking pretty good. And next detail I want to add is, I'm just looking around. Fuck, I gotta be faster. Okay. Alright, let's edit this plane in. I only use the silhouette because all I have to do is add a Gaussian blur, resize it and lower the opacity, and it looks close enough to the actual plane in the image. Don't have to get fancy with this one, it's just a shadow. There we go. I'm pleased with that. I know I'm gonna have to add drop shadows here because it's just a small detail that makes it look really good. But I kind of shot myself in the foot by not having each individual object have their own drop shadow. So this is gonna look a bit wonky. I'm just gonna offset it a bit, put it behind the layer, add a blur after I get this sized. Okay, that doesn't look terrible if I just lower the opacity. It's the only thing I can do at this point right now. But that looks good. I'm not displeased with that. As far as shadows go, for this far into it and I forgot about them, that'll work. These separate images, separate objects that weren't in that group layer won't really get too much of a shadow, but that's okay. So I'm adding a bevel and emboss here effect to make it look like it's actually part of the ground, adding that dark stroke around one of the sides is going to make it look pressed in to the floor, but the light source has to be from the bottom because that makes sense. That's looking pretty good. The smaller size. Okay. It's still a bit thin. I want to see if I like that overlay. I like that, but the color is wrong now. It's too yellow. These settings aren't really helping. But let me think. The jewelry is still too dark. Let me go to the... Okay, that's not helping. I thought if I added a color balance effect, I could have more control over that text layer, but since it's overlaid, it's just not working. I'm gonna have to change it back to normal blend mode. I fucked up the color. Yeah, so I just had to undo like 10 times to get back to this. That ate some time, but that's okay. A bit of noise to make some sort of dirt texture, like it's in the ground. Edit this. That looks a bit closer to the cover. Oops. Little shadow. I'm only doing a shadow for this bigger object because it's more noticeable. Lower the opacity. That looks fine for what I'm doing. I'm just going to change the angle a bit. Okay. A little bigger. Okay, what is next? I guess get that mower shadow. Trying to be a little faster. Quick blur, quick opacity change. Looks good. Okay, I know I'm almost done here. Let me just give a bit of polish on these objects. The nose looks a bit different, I can already tell, than the final, but that's okay. Alright, for the jewelry here, let's see, I need to make these brighter. So let's see, there we go. Now I need to make a sort of halo effect because it's supposed to be jewelry. So I'm just going to use the lowest or the softest brush quality and mark over these guys. And then I'm just going to change the opacity of all of them. So it's subtle, but it's there. Stands out from the rest really well. Oops. Good. Okay. I know. Alright, I think I'm almost done here. Last thing I want to do is make this text a bit thicker. So I'm just going to select all of it. Well, yeah. So first I'm going to make it a bit more. Whoops. A bit more together, change the kerning, because when I make it thicker and god damn it, when I make it wrong layer, when I make it a little bit thicker with a stroke around it, it's gonna match the font just a bit better. It's hardly noticeable with how thin it is right now. It is noticeable, but just a small detail. Probably a little too thick. I like those small details. Forgot to change it to this color. There we go. That looks fine. Okay. Is that it? I think that might be it. I think we're done. I just have to... Oh, let's see. Gotta do these tattoos real quick. I'm really not worried about detail. We're almost done here. I'm just gonna use the brush tool to somewhat get the look and feel of them right. I'm just gonna use the same technique with the title, making it a bit lighter, and then adding a bevel and emboss. So I'm gonna change this lightness, it's a bit more dark, bevel and emboss, same settings as the text, looks good. I'm gonna add a bit of noise to it, get that dirt texture, whoops, misclick, okay. YC looks good. Now for the Jacob tattoo. Need a really small brush size for this one. It's gonna look kind of ass, but I'm not worried about it. Speed is king. That looks fine. Again, same technique, bevel and emboss, gonna light it in a bit, more brown texture, or color, then add that noise, boom, looks pretty good. Maybe a bit of a thicker stroke here. That's a little, yeah, it's too thick, undo that. Oh fuck man, I think we're done. Holy shit. Was that like 37 minutes? 34 minutes? Not bad. What do we say? I said 30 minutes was projected. I think it looks pretty good. I don't know. Alright, I'm gonna cut the video and compare. Alright, so first let's take a look at the official artwork. And now the remake beside it. Alright, it's not perfect, but it's not terrible. Missed some tattoos, it's a little too green, detail isn't all that good. But for about 36 minutes, not bad.